On this episode of One on One, we're going to sit down with the newly elected mayor of Thibodaux, Clement. We're going to find out what makes him tick. We're going to go down memory lane. Where did he get the desire to even run for mayor? He's done so many things in the parish. We always joke, does he have a twin? Because you used to see him everywhere. But we're going to sit down with the mayor and find out what's it all about. What's his goals? What's his intentions as mayor? And we'll talk a little family, and we'll talk a little past. It's all next on One on One. One on One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer. When did you start morphing into government? When was the first time? Was that always a plan, or did you have that?
It wasn't
was it
always.
Accident?
I don't know if it was an accident. You'll have to ask Tommy SJ and David Duplantis that question.
Mm-hmm.
The story goes, Tommy asked me to come to work for him 12 years ago, and I did, and I was excited about that. I for the first 25 years of my professional life, I was an IT person. I was a computer nerd, and it was just time to switch hats. I had the opportunity with Tommy when Tommy took over to run the Parks and Rec department, and I did that. And one day, as David and Tommy and I are watching a Mardi Gras parade in front of City Hall, David Duplantis passes the comment about how I knew so many people, I would be a good mayor. It went through this year and out the other. Never thought of it. Nothing in there to slow it down, I guess, sometimes. But about 2 years later, we had a different function, and David Duplantis and Tommy both say a comment about, you know, you'd be a really good mayor. You should consider doing this. It kind of slowed down in between my ears that time, but I didn't pay any attention to it. And then the third time was we were playing golf, and I'm addressing the ball, and David Duplantis and Tommy SJ are in that golf cart, and they conspiring. You could just feel it, right? Yeah. And David says something about, you know, you really ought to consider running for mayor. And I remember very vividly in my mind, I stopped and I looked at him and I said, you know, that's the third time you say that. We need to talk because you're serious, aren't you? And that was probably 5 years ago, maybe. So they put that concept in my head. I mulled it over for several years. I thought about it again. We started having discussions, and here we are. Never a long-range goal of Kevin Clement to be in politics or to be the mayor. I can say this, even before I got married or had kids, I wanted to be involved in my community. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do the right things, and I enjoy that concept.
But you were, and you everywhere. Every time we go cover something, or with Thibodaux Family Church had a big deal. I think I told you one time, or I told my crew, he must have a twin, because he's everywhere. I think that's probably what they saw. But I gotta say this, I really admire Tommy SJ for saying that while he was mayor, because most people that are in power aren't encouraging somebody else to take their power
you're right,
from them.
Yeah,
but
right.
That just shows you how strong mentally he was with himself.
Yeah, Tommy has a lot of good things, and he's done a lot of great things. And I said this the night you interviewed me of my election. He'll go down as one of the best mayors Thibodaux has ever had. When you look back at all the accomplishments and all the decisions that he made, he'll be remembered very, very positive in the city of Thibodaux.
And a lot of people think that mayors are just figureheads. Y'all got some tough things to,
absolutely,
you know, the municipalities. And we all know, I can say this because I was born in Thibodaux. Thibodaux's known as a quaint little town. It's not a quaint little town anymore. It grew
very much,
very fast.
Yep.
And it's a tiger. You got to hold on to the tail now.
Absolutely, especially with the onset of Ida. We knew a year and a half ago when Ida hit, Thibodaux was going to swell. And you could feel it, the surrounding areas. You could feel it just getting bigger and getting more traffic. I think people in Lower Terrebonne and Lower Lafourche, some of those people didn't go back and rebuild. They moved up north. So yeah, Thibodaux is growing.
When we used to go hang out at my grandmother's house in Thibodaux, and go a little further down and racing to my other grandparent, everybody had a nickname. Did you have a nickname?
I never had a nickname.
You got to be kidding me.
I never had a nickname.
How did you never get a nickname?
I don't know.
In Thibodaux?
Maybe I stayed out of trouble. My closest nickname is Kev. Some people call me Kev. At one point, I used to sign everything KEV.
You might be the first person I haven't interviewed from Thibodeau who does not have a nickname.
I know.
You think you'll have one after you?
I sure hope it's
you
a
term as
positive
mayor?
nickname.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. When you started making up your mind that, hey,
Yeah.
I want to do this, I know the first thing you got to fight are nerves, because when you make a decision like that, you're putting yourself out.
Absolutely.
And not only that, you're putting your family out.
Put your family out.
What was the first meeting like with your wife and kids, and was there trepidation at first, or what was it like?
Becky and I have always discussed things pretty openly. And this wasn't a one-time meeting, right? This was something we talked about and then talked about and then talked about a year later. And we kept progressing into it. And then it came time where, okay, look, we're either going to make a decision here or we're not. And I think she always wanted me to do that. I think she knew it was something I wanted, and she's always been super supportive of everything I've done. So it was easy for her to say, yes, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. We're going to do it 100%. Let's go for it. And then we had to go sell the kids on the idea, because you do put your kids in a spot where people, it's uncomfortable sometimes. And you have to learn to be comfortable when you're uncomfortable.
Right.
I think my kids were open to that. I think it's just the way we lived our life. We always take trips, long trips, small trips. We always found things off the beaten path, and we were never too busy to go check out certain aspects of it. And that's just the serenity in which we live our lives. I'll tell you this story. Thomas was going to college in West Texas, 14 and a half hours away, Northwest Texas. My wife and Grace and I think Grace probably would have been, I don't know, maybe 17, 18 at the time. We're going to drive up there. So we take a 14 and a half hour drive. Grace wants to go visit a tulip farm. And so I said, okay, we have a little time. We'll go visit the tulip farm. Well, it's 2.5 hours off the beaten path to go visit this tulip farm. Yeah. But that's how we were wired. We always like to do that. Probably the best trip we ever made was taking 2.5 hours to go visit a tulip farm. And we might have stayed there 3 or 4 hours. It wasn't just fields of tulips in the middle of West Texas. You never would have thought it. Absolutely gorgeous. And just to watch the expression on Grace and Becky's face when we taking pictures or just at peace in that tulip farm, well worth the trip.
The whole time you're saying that story, I'm thinking of Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
Go through the tulips.
It was something like that. It was just rows and rows and rows of tulips, but it was great. You
made a pretty profound statement on your last answer. You said you have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. A lot of times you get put in situations where there is no answer. Part of the hardest part of this job so far, we're 107, 108 days in, is sometimes I don't have the right answers. And sometimes my answers are not right for both sides of the fence. That's hard for me. I've always been a guy who could figure out how to get it done. Yeah. Sometimes I have to say no, and no upsets party A.
Because you're a likable guy.
B.
You probably associate saying no with, you hate to be unliked. A lot of people like that because you're such a people person. But
True.
As mayor, sometimes you got to say no.
True. I'm finding that out.
And Thibodeau's got so many people that would be considered in power.
Sure.
You don't have to be elected.
Sure.
To be powerful in Thibodeau. So
absolutely.
I'd imagine sometimes they come knocking at your door and you're going, I wonder what this is about.
Well,
you learn to get used to it, right?
You learn to get used to it. You learn to adjust. I go back to the old Survivor, outwit, outlast, outplay. You have to be flexible on your feet, and you have to adapt. And that's all it's about.
Aren't people okay with no as long as
Absolutely.
you give a pretty good reason?
Absolutely. I had this discussion with a councilman Monday. There are going to be times where we're going to agree to agree. And there's going to be times when we're going to agree to disagree. You got to move forward. That's all you can do. Be professional about it. Respect the other person's opinion and respect the platform that because you have to have faith in people enough where you have to believe that they're trying to do the right thing. And I do. Maybe that's sometimes it's a weakness of mine, sometimes it's a strength, but you have to put your faith in something.
And they're looking out for their district.
Absolutely.
They want to go back in their district and say, I got it.
Absolutely.
But you might not have the budget to change the whole drainage system in a certain area, but
absolutely.
you write something that maybe the conversation might be, well, let's work on it over the years.
Yeah.
See, one bite of the elephant at a time, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
What has it been like the first few months?
First few months have been very, very well received. I had a 2-year plan from when I announced to when I actually qualified for the election. I followed that plan. I had a plan from when I qualified to election day. And then I had a plan from when I took office to now. And that plan was actually 100 days. It was last Tuesday. I wish I could list all the things that we've accomplished. It's too many to remember. I thought it would take us much, much longer to get things done. It just rolled smoothly in. A lot of that is because of the previous administration and the job that Tommy and I was part of that we did. It was the transition was easier. Probably the first 30 to 45 days, I was worried about all my department heads and how they were going to react and how the job they were going to do in each individual setting that they had. Turns out each one of those department heads to a person was more worried about me and my ability to get things done and how they could help me than I was about them. That's the essence of a team. You know, we talk about competition, we talk about sports, and we talk about, individual accomplishments, accolades, MVP awards, those are all nice. But when you accomplish things as a team, so much more rewarding.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. It's so nice when your predecessor, when you win and you could go in the office and participate, and he lets you just. There's so many hostile parishes where the winner wins. They're not getting into the day that they move in. Harmony is a good thing in politics.
Absolutely. Couldn't have worked out any better for the citizens of Thibodaux when stuff like that happens. I've called Tommy Eshte 3 times in these first 3 months about a work issue that I just needed his expertise and his knowledge on. And every time I call him, he's either playing golf, going to play golf, or just finished playing golf. So the joke between him and I are, look, I'm not calling you anymore because you kind of egg me on that, you're living this high life over here and playing golf, and I'm still stuck doing the work. That's an ongoing running joke between Tommy and I. But it is nice to know you've got that knowledge sitting behind you, and he's more than willing to help. And he would have been that way with anybody. It's not just a Kevin Clement.
What I like about you, your ego will not stop you from picking up the phone. And there's a lot of people that get elected say, I'll be doggone if I'm going to pick up that phone because I want him to know I can do it without him. I always tell people, rely on all the past parish presidents, the past mayors. They ought to all be on a board.
Absolutely.
Because they've been through it.
Absolutely. They've been through some of these experiences. Yeah. It's a good feeling. It's a warm and fuzzy feeling to know you've got people like that. And not just him now. I'll be honest with you. Mayor Kywet has offered that, and he's called me. We've spoken several times on the phone with his knowledge. So it's very comforting to know those people are behind you.
Y'all had some colorful people in office all the years. And I asked you when you came in the studio today if you'd seen Cam Morvant lately. And I still call him Coach because he was my coach. But so many colorful people. And once again, Thibodaux's always been known as a small, quaint town. But I tell people, it's not that small and quaint anymore. It's really spread out. People started to divide some of their properties. I say like 4 families own so much land in Thibodaux, and they started subdividing. Man, it exploded.
You mentioned Cam. Cam and I live probably 2 or 3 blocks away from each other, so we'll see each other walking every now and then. And we always have the ability to cross the street and shoot the breeze real quick 2 or
Right.
3 minutes, and then we on our way.
Yeah.
Very valuable to have that knowledge in Cam's head, just to see how he handled situations in public, just to count on his knowledge and his experience. It's a pretty neat thing.
And he wanted to do it the right way.
He did it the right
Sort
way.
of like you. I have no doubt that 4 years from now, whenever we interview along it, we're going to see you
Yeah.
through storms and everything else.
Sure.
But there won't be a scandal. There
Sure.
won't be. It's just sort of the way you were brought up. So it's sort of your mindset. That doesn't happen by chance.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank
Somebody had to teach you.
you. Absolutely. Goes back
along the
goes
way.
back to my parents.
Yeah. What's your main goal to accomplish as mayor? Now, this may be long terms, but
Yeah.
what do you think?
I just want to progressively move the city forward. We rebranded the city a little bit, and we put a saying and just a little catchphrase together that my wife actually came up with many, many years ago. Community first and forward. We've all had opportunities to leave the city, leave our hometown.
Right.
I've never left. I like the community. I like the culture. I like the people. And I think that's what keeps everybody in the city of Thibodaux. So we want to put them first, and we want to move forward, but we want to keep that little small town sense, you know. We want the manufacturing, don't get me wrong. We love the fact that Thibodaux Regional Health Systems is extremely successful in what they do, that we have a great university and a great president right now, that our parish is actually recovering very good from the leadership it has with Archie Chasson and the devastation that they've been hit with the last 2 or 3 years. We want to keep that little sense. We want to keep that safety. That's what drew me here. That's what kept me here. That's I think what people want.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's the best athlete to come out your family? Because Blake and all them are going to be tuning in, and a lot of other people.
That's
Was
a
it you?
tough
Or
one.
who was it?
No, I'm never going to say me. Blake is up there now.
Yeah.
Brian Clement is up there. People
Yeah.
forget about how good of an athlete
was
Brian
good.
Clement is.
I'm just trying to stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah, you put me on the spot here, right? We used to have some battles, and there was never one superstar. That was what's great about all our family. But
Yeah.
my dad, in his day, was a heck of a running back for Thibodaux High School.
Okay.
Now, they called him Destruction for a reason.
Yeah.
Whether it was on the football field or when he was driving his truck around, who knows? But, you know, I'm going to leave that one unanswered
All right.
as a
So
politician.
I'm going to ask you this as we close. What's the one word you would hope everyone would use to describe you? Now, then when I interview you
Yeah.
years from now, I'm going to ask you again, but what's the one word right now that you would hope your wife, your kids, your grandkid, Cam, your ex-coaches would use to describe, not the mayor,
Yeah.
but Kevin Clement?
I would hope they'd see me as a nice guy. I would hope they would see me as an intelligent man, not the most intelligent of them all. I would hope they would see me as a fair person. I will always, to a fault, give people the benefit of the doubt. I would just hope they'd see me as a nice guy. And I have to say this now. While my mom and dad and grandparents were there, I have an aunt, Sue Tardo, who probably taught me more about being nice than anything. And
Amen.
yeah, there it is. I
Congenial.
hope I'm seen as a nice guy.
Congenial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mark.
Good seeing you, and thank you
Absolutely.
for joining us.
Thank you very much.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.